All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. A lot of people have been talking about tunnel rams lately, and I've got one for my 400 build. I've had this tunnel ram since I got back from Michigan, but when I got it, it only had a single top. So I got digging around in some other parts that I had and found the dual top to fit this tunnel ram. So what I'm going to do is fit those two together and finish my port work on it. Let me show you what I've been doing. So as you can see, I got a stack of shavings in the back there. Most of them are pretty large, like they're big shavings, big chunks. And I did that with that aluminum carbide there. It's made to cut aluminum. So the way I started with these ports, I went through and did my shaping. So laid my gasket up, marked it, and if you'll remember that last video, I measured the port width of both the intakes. So the Holley Street Dominator that I have on the engine now and the Edelbrock, also the ports, my port windows of my heads. And you'll notice here, carefully touched the floors of these. I didn't want to take very much out. You can still see that blackness there. Obviously this intake was used. It's got some copper coat from somebody before. But I went ahead and left all the floor that I could, mostly because the way my heads are, that was stacked up. And also, air doesn't actually flow down there. Not nearly as much as it would at the roof. So I raised my roofs up, and you can just barely see the red line left. That's what I was going for. I left some on both of these sides. As I was told in a previous video from a viewer, shooting for about 20 thousandths. This is actually a little bit wide here. I'm gonna leave it. I was trying to do what I called some common sense porting. So here's my snap gauge. The way I started with this snap gauge is I went into the port. Show you here. Went into the port and I measured. So my thinnest place, that's where I started. That's what I started with. So if I just go by, I've already cut this to where that will free flow through there. But whenever I began this would actually stick inside the port. So a lot of places it would flow freely, just barely, and I went ahead and opened up all the way. The places I was focusing on opening, and if you think about a head, which I can grab a head and flip over, stick on here for you, the way the air is going to travel in my mind, whether or not it does, but kind of from studying Mr. David Vizard, the way the air travels is the way that I was trying to open these walls up. So if this was flipped up like this, you can see the direction of the runners. And they really aren't like line of sight, as Eric Weingartner says. Line of sight, you can see straight out the back of that. So that's good. If we're going line of sight, that's where I was porting to. So if that air was flowing down that direction, I took off more of that wall, the inside wall there, or center wall. So we go through here, like I said, line of sight. It's a beautifully straight shot in there. So I didn't want to give up any portion of that. If we're looking at the area here, so area from here to here, this is actually like a D-shaped window, so finding that area would be a little bit different than just if it was a square or rectangle. It's massive. So here's my snap gauge for that. You can see I get to here. This one is just dwarfed. So I didn't actually do any figuring in here. Man, I gotta get to a certain level or point. The way I did this was I found the pinch point inside. I found my pinch point with that snap gauge, and I made every one of these ports equal to that. So example, if we go in there 2 inches, this one is exactly almost exactly the same. Same thing, same thing. So I wasn't trying to just go in and hog out. What I was trying to do is open all this up. So I now have my new width. See how that gauge flows through nicely. Plenty of space here. But every single one of these are the same. I don't have a flow bench, obviously. I'm not a flow bench connoisseur. But I kept just kind of working this port with that bit, so you can still see the old rough finish there. I've got one port that I hit with my sandpaper roll, and I talked to Mr. Andy Wood about all this. I didn't say that he endorsed everything I've done, but he didn't complain about it, so that was good. He said for me to leave this. He likes to leave an 80 grit finish inside of here. So tell him where you heard it. Go check out his channel if you have not, Unity Motorsports Garage. And he and Mr. Vizard are working on a 318 right now. So that's something exciting for Mopar people. But you can see here I've smoothed these runners, tops and bottoms, corners, and just brought it out on that top side to where it almost touches my line. This one actually went away when I hit it with the sandpaper roll. That's totally fine. I'm not worried about that at all. I just wanted to show y'all how I was shaping, and this is still, you can hear it versus this. So this is nice and smooth. I'll get my sandpaper roll set back up and hit these other ports. I don't have a great deal of time into this, and I even measure here, like in my port width, not going past that. So setting this at the width of the actual port of the head, that allowed me to get a good early measurement and mark it through there. So it's the same all the way across. I should be very, very close. And when I drop this on, but I may actually pop my other intake off and just be sure this test fits and works before I go to the dyno, so I'm not scrambling, because I only will get one day there, mostly because of the cost. So I'll do another video on describing that and my process for preparation. But right now I need to make this port look like that port. So let me get you set up. You can watch me do a little bit of work. I like this. I got this All-Star Performance kit here from, I believe I got it off eBay. Same thing as those bits. And they give you lots of stuff here to choose from. I think it goes 60, 80, 120. All these different cartridge rolls. So there's a very, very rough one. Which you see I've used one just to run over that port to start with. Go ahead and knock off the ugly there. Then switch to an 80. So all that's good. This is a pretty nice kit. It's got a couple small mandrels in it to hold the rolls. I haven't even used these. I guess I could in that short of area, but I bought a bigger one from eBay as well, just so I can get in and get my work done. Switched over to my 80 grit now. Brand new dude. Go to work. I feel really good about it. So I left my fine line here, like I said earlier, and switching from, I'll take the mask off here, switching from the 60 to the 80, you can really tell where it was cutting. I've got a few little gouges kind of down in there, like right there, and that was just my fault from going too hard earlier with that other bit. But there's some cutting bits for sure. But this port looks, I think it looks really nice. Here in a minute, after I get, see, there's kind of what the before was. She's rough and smooth. When I get these other ones smoothed out, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over and then hit it from the top side and kind of clean all that stuff up in there. You can see where the smoothing happened inside there. So let me smooth those up, and then we'll flip over together. So all my ports are done up. I went ahead and pulled 2 intake valves on this nice set of ported heads that I've got. I forget the casting on these. I think they're 324, so they have the pedestal rockers. Older stuff. Really nice port work on these. I've got a video about that. But I was talking about common sense porting with my red marker. So if you see red marker from the top side, that means that my intake ports are larger than my head ports, which would be a no-no. So I'm gonna get us lean back and I'll shine the light through and bring you along so you can see it. Hopefully it's not too bright. We'll try that. So if you were air, let me back it up here. Example, if we're a carburetor and we're setting, we're going to be flowing straight down that way. It's not actually straight down towards the bottom of the motor, but at this angle. And I realize that's very bright. So our airflow's going that way. That's why I opened that port up on that side. It's a very close match. I could have went a little bit more, but these are not the heads on my engine, so I want to be a little bit conservative. So going through there, and then we look through. That's it. So nice smooth transition. I didn't hog that out great big or anything like that. We look at the other side. Still can't see any red. Looks nice. And this was my other kind of common sense idea. If we are airflow on this side, see if that'll shine, there we go. If we're airflow on this side, a butterfly, it has to go down at that angle. So that's the roof. This ends up transitioning into the roof of the port. I haven't really touched this at all, just barely with a sandpaper, my cartridge roll. And as it flows, it's going to go straight through there. You can see their port work at the bottom. Like these bowls have been super blended into the valve job, and a little bit of port bias on that port. Hopefully you can see it. I mean, I think I did this intake justice, just because it was so small. See if I can shine you that way. I mean, it's a straight shot right to the intake valve. I can see part of the valve right straight through here. It's amazing. This intake should make a lot of good torque for me. and that'll help that low deck 400 with a short stroke. What I'm going to do next is fit my top to the bottom of the intake box. I marked around all the ports with a red marker, and I'll use my pick to scribe that up. Here's my top. Like I said, it was on a different tunnel ram, and it's pretty dirty, so I will get it. I'm going to clean up both of them whenever I'm done porting. What we layer on, they don't have to be tight, but at least all four started. So I'll have a nice reference. So you can see how terribly off that is. Going to try to slide it back. It looks like I can get her slid back. That would be nice. I'm gonna switch it around and see if it lines up any better. Yeah, this is definitely worse. So they're off by a country mile there and there, hanging over this way. I think I might actually be better off if I open my holes up just a little bit so that it can have some slide. Try to get that evened up some on here, because this is wild. It's gonna have plenty of meat to actually seal, and it looks like it needs to come towards me according to the casting, but the holes themselves won't allow that, the way this is. Grabbing tight line like that. I would leave the top on and do this, but this seems to be a little bit easier. Be able to pop it off, take it out to there, and then stop. The back is much better. I got my bolt, two of the bolts tight to where it wouldn't move. So I've got a nice transition from the top piece down to my bottom. Over here, just about the same. Pop the top off, and you can see what it looks like here. Got a little thin in this area, but it's still, you know, that's the thickness that a valve cover gasket would land on, so it's totally fine. Didn't take a lot. Areas like that, you can see it there. I just blended it to where it'd go in, and then I treated that curve kind of like it was sort of like it was a short side radius of a head. So I didn't grind it out and open it up and all that. I just tried to transition it to where it would circle right in. Right here, same thing. Air's coming from this way, going down and around the corner. Looks like that. So anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. I'm gonna have a nice intake when this is all said and done. I'll get her cleaned up, and maybe I can try it for dyno day on the old 400.